So welcome everyone to another conversation with myself, Marnie Richmond, and Cindy Duke. And this is our third episode of From Desperately Seeking Human to Embracing Humanoid. And last time we talked about parenting, we talked about childbirth, and we talked about how magic and miracles are actually possible when you're willing to ask questions, when you're willing to receive, when you don't buy the point of view that you have to do everything the way that other people in this human reality do it, then you open up to this whole other world of possibilities beyond anything that you could imagine. So we're going to continue with that theme. And in another area of life that most of us have dealt with at one time or another, and that's the death of a loved one. And that can be a really, really tricky thing to navigate. And so I'm going to turn it over to Cindy, who has a personal story about that in her life and how she used the tools of access to go through all of that.
Yeah.
Take it away wherever you want to start.
Okay. So it began for me, I think, in about 10 years ago. Well, 13 years ago was my first experience with death. It was my mom's fiance. So I wasn't that close to him anyway, but I knew I wasn't acting like everybody else. And I was like eating the soup at the table, all the neighbors were bringing, eating all the bread, happy out, saying I shouldn't be eating, no one else is eating. I shouldn't be going upstairs for a nap, no one else is sleeping, but I did it anyway. And then I just had that little bit of guilt linger. And then a couple of years later, my brother left his body. I always knew he wasn't with me, going to be with me for long. I always had the sense that he was going to leave, or maybe I was aware that he always had it in his world he was going to leave, but I didn't know what I was dealing with. This was before Access. It was 10 years ago. I was in my 20s. So I got the call one night in bed. I answered my phone. I was like, hello, it's my friend. He said, hi, Cindy, is your brother at home? And I was like, no. And is he in his home? And I said, I don't know. And he said, okay, I've just heard that he's been thrown over the river in Bandon. He's after being murdered. Can you go check if he's at home? So I got out of bed, got in my car, drove down. Knew I wasn't going to find him at home, but I did what I was supposed to do anyway.
So did you know in that moment, yes, that was true and it was done? Yeah.
There was never a doubt. I was like, okay. Yeah. So then no sign. So I said, I better go to my mom. So my mom was at work in a restaurant a few meters away from where he was thrown into the river. So I went into her and I was like, you be the calm here now. This is happening. She's in denial. She's still serving customers. It's okay. So I just sat there and I wasn't well aware that I was using the tools at that time, but I was definitely using something. So when the guards knew my mom worked there, we live in a small town. So they came in, they told her, and then it was real. So he was murdered by his two friends. He had 200 marks in his whole body, and then after thrown into the river to dispose of him. So
wow. Can I just pause for 1 second, because I want to highlight what you've said, and I believe we said this on the first call, that we're talking a lot about the tools of access in this series. And we said it was kind of when, for both of you and I, when we took the first bars class, there were so many areas, and I can say the same thing, where I went, oh, I actually already did these things. I didn't know I did these things. I actually already knew these things. Somebody just put words to what I actually already always knew. I just didn't know that I knew it. And I just want to highlight that, because it is, for me, access gave the here, this is what's actually occurring here. This is what you're actually doing. You're actually being in question. You're actually not doing drama. You're actually looking at possibilities. Just nobody ever told you that. You just thought you were weird and different. but you've already known all these things. So I just want to highlight that, because you as the being were the tools that we've been talking about even before you had the mental information about what those tools were, which
Totally.
is amazing. Yeah.
Because if I wasn't being the energy I was being in that moment, my mom would have totally lost her shit.
Yes.
But my sense of calm was oozing out in a way when it was me and her.
Yeah.
And all this hullabaloo, all this crazy. I just remember the whole town, all the projections, expectations on us. Oh, poor you, what you're going through.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, this isn't that hard. And I was like, I must be such a fucked up piece of shit because I'm not finding this hard.
Wow. I gotta pause again for that, because that is such a thing. It's one of those things that you dare not say, because it's a judgeable offense to say, here's this horrible story. My brother was brutally murdered and I'm not suffering. And I just, but how many of us have had similar experiences where we actually knew something else, whether it was they're actually happy they're not here anymore. They actually knew, they actually somehow chose this, even though that sounds completely crazy. But how many of us actually know that somewhere, but we don't say it out loud because it's considered, well, because we're supposed to buy the drama and trauma rather than have the peace and the ease.
And I knew my mom in time was relieved. My sister was, there was no worrying. There was no drama. Our whole life was a, if I had a million years, I could tell you. And I could sense all of this. And I was like, for a couple of years, and I was like in and out of guilty, not guilty, but not really guilty. And all like just wading through the projections of people and everyone saying this must be so hard, and just saying, yeah, it is. Yeah. But you're so positive. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And it wasn't until then when I started Access, and I really like, I loved doing the talk to the entities class. It just opened so many doors, and I just thought, oh, okay, this is what I know. This is this, and I could connect a lot of dots, and I got a lot of answers, and a lot of ease with everything that had happened, and a lot of ease for my brother and my family, in like letting him go, like the trauma clearing. And so it was then my mom, 2 years ago, I was getting married and my mom got sick, and she was like, Cindy, what if it's something really serious? And I was like, it's not. But she knew it was serious. It was cancer. She was ready to go as well, like my brother. She was ready a long time. And we were all in a really great place now when I was doing Access, and she knew that I was, and she said, okay, they're okay. I'm going to bow out.
I can go now. Yeah.
I can go now. And I knew.
Yeah.
And it was so different with my mom, because it was still all the projections, the expectations, not again. It's going to be you and your two sisters. You don't have a dad. What are you going to do? 3 girls. And I was like, so at peace with it. And my peace was trickling into my sisters and into my mom. And she was sick the day of my wedding. She couldn't make it. I still got married because I knew it was her choice, and I knew I deserved happiness.
Yeah.
And it got worse and worse. But she always seemed fine, like she dealt with it like a pro, you know. Yeah. And she was sick, but she never told us it was terminal. But I knew. And so all the appointments, there was a big elephant in the room, and there was nothing being said. With the looks, I could go into the doctor's mind. I could go in, and I was so aware of what was going on, but my mom didn't think I was. And then it was last Christmas, not even a year yet. It was like 2 weeks to Christmas, and she was fine. She was around the place. She's like, I feel a bit sick. I might go to the doctor anyway. They sent her in to the hospital. She came out and she said, I'm just going into. Marymount. It's like a respite for a rest. I'm not going in there to die. I'm going in there to rest. And people don't go in there to rest. They go in there to die. So we were like, okay, okay. She still
Yeah.
didn't tell us,
Yeah.
but I was still like, and then so we were like, oh, it's like a hotel. So she went in anyway, 2 weeks inside there, and I got a phone call, and so a Sunday before Christmas, a couple of days, she was trying to make it to Christmas, and they said, can you come in and sit with your mom? She wants you. And so I went in, and I was like a little bit shocked, because it was like gone from one extreme to whoa. And I was
Right.
like, okay,
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
she's going out today. I was like, in my head, because we still hadn't spoken what
Yeah.
was really happening. I was asking questions. I was running exit stage left, which I had been running for a long time anyway, and just creating as much ease as I could, and energetically saying you can go. And then I sat with her all day, and then my sisters came in the evening, and so peacefully, it was like the room got all fuzzy and warm and light, and I was like, this feels like when Arabella was born. I think she's going to go. I said out loud to my sisters, I was like, oh. And
Wow.
then like they took it well, and then next minute it was the same energy as the birth and the death, and she just left.
That is so beautiful when you said that, the same energy of when Arabella was born.
Yeah,
Wow.
I knew it was all okay then. I was like, whoa,
Yeah,
this is
well, because
lovely.
it's a being. The being remains the being. It's just changing forms. That's it. It's coming into a body, or it's leaving a body, or but it's the same essence of infinite being, and it doesn't matter what's occurring with the body, whether it's just being born brand new, or whether it's saying, I'm done with this one, I'm gonna go to the next thing. But
Yeah.
what a different space to be able to perceive that. And the other thing you've said several times, from your brother's death to your mom's, I knew, I knew, I knew. And I just want to highlight that too, because how many of us know things, but it doesn't match what everybody around us is saying, or the stories they're telling, or the drama that they're choosing. So we question us and figure out, we just go, well, there must be something wrong with me. And what would be different if we really let ourselves know that we do actually know?
We know.
We know. All
Yeah.
things we know. Yeah.
And there wasn't
Yeah.
a whole lot of trauma with me or my sisters followed, because we knew it was just instantaneously, it was a beautiful space. Like, it was wonderful.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah. Well, and I wonder how many stories people listening to this, whether you've done any access classes, taken bars or not, what stories you have with death that you can connect into what we're talking about. That just listening to your story, Cindy, I go, oh yeah, my grandma this, and someone that I know that committed suicide about a month ago. Oh yeah, that. And there were so many incidents around that actual moment of death that so
Yeah.
clear that they chose.
Yeah.
And we buy into this tragedy of death as it's something that happens to us, rather than we're actively creating all of the things in our lives, including when we tap out, including when we say time to reset, gotta go.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just
Yeah.
create a warm, loving, soft, fluffy space for somebody to leave, not crying, screaming, trauma. And it's just very different, but it's the world I want to create. Like,
Well, and yes, me too. And the way that the last episode you talked about how you energetically speak with your daughter, and
yeah.
though she doesn't have words, or at least a lot of them yet, you still can energetically tap into what she requires, and you can gift that to her, and you can receive from her. And the communion of that, just because somebody's body isn't here doesn't mean we cannot do that with them also, because their being is not destroyed. Their being is still very present. So
I have never been closer to my brother from the day he left his body.
Mm.
like our relationship expanded beyond. And my
Wow.
mom, my baby was 3 or 4 months when my mom passed, and like with questions like medicines, this, I'd still ask my mom, and I just get the awareness. And I know that sounds crazy, but she was there with me more than ever. She was there with me all the time. She was unlimited, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you again for this conversation. It's just, well, the title of the series just hits it spot on, from desperately seeking human to embracing humanoid, because all of this reality things that we try to follow with regards to dealing with death, with regards to dealing with birth, with regards to dealing with parenting, all of the things that are just so not who and what we are. And
Yeah.
when we stop trying to make ourselves fit into that human reality box that we have never fit in, and have always judged ourselves for not fitting in, and just go, you know what, I'm really different. And I really know something else is possible. And as crazy as it may be to the rest of the world, I'm going to have that. That's the embracing humanoid reality. And it creates a whole different experience in our lives, like dynamically different.
And what would it take for everyone to meet a Marnie Richmond that would hold a space for them to talk about these things?
Oh, well, thank you. And I would also say, what would it take for everybody else to be the Cindy Duke that they are and express their story to the world?
Oh,
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
Wow.
So thank you, Cindy, as always. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we are not done. So we'll be back with more. See you next time. Bye.